My name is Emily Hart, and this story happened when I was 19. Back then, I was just a college girl trying to survive on my own in Minneapolis. I didn't have much, a tiny studio apartment, a part-time job at a bookstore, and an old bus pass that was my ticket to everything. I couldn't afford a car, so public transportation was my lifeline. But that also meant one thing: late-night transfers on the Nicollet Mall. If you've never been there, let me paint the picture for you. A long stretch of road where only buses are allowed. Glass shelters lined up every few blocks. During the day, it's alive with noise and people, but at night, it's a different world. Empty, cold, echoing footsteps. Sometimes, you'd swear you were being watched. That night, I had been at the hospital. My mom had fallen ill again, and I stayed until the nurses practically pushed me out. It was almost midnight when I finally stepped out into the chilly air. The streets were quiet to quiet. I wrapped my coat tighter and walked toward the bus shelter, the last stop before home. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above me as I stepped inside the plexiglass box. I could see my reflection in the glass, tired eyes, pale face, hair messy from stress. I looked like I'd been through hell. My phone battery was at 3%, so no distractions. Just me, the cold air, and the sound of a distant bus engine somewhere far away. That's when I heard footsteps. Sharp, rhythmic, getting closer. My stomach tightened. I turned my head, scanning the empty street. That's when I saw him, a tall man, walking straight toward me from the far end of the mall. His coat was long, almost brushing the ground, and he walked with a strange confidence, like he owned the night. I told myself, don't panic, Emily. He's probably just catching a bus like you. But something about the way he moved made my instincts scream. I shifted my stance, pretending to check the bus schedule. He came closer and closer until he was right outside the glass wall. Then, before I could react, he yanked his coat open. For a split second, I froze. My brain couldn't even process what I was seeing. And then it hit me: he was exposing himself, right there, in the middle of the night, in front of me. My body went cold. My heart slammed in my chest. And then I did the strangest thing. I laughed. It wasn't planned. It wasn't brave. It was pure fear turned upside down. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Yup, that looks like a penis, only smaller." The man's expression changed instantly. His confidence shattered. His mouth twitched. His face went red, and he stumbled back, yanking his coat shut. Then, like a scared animal, he turned and ran. I stood there shaking, half from laughter, half from shock. When the bus finally came, I sat in the back seat, staring out the window, trying to convince myself it was over. But it wasn't. Not even close. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Every sound behind me made me flinch. Every reflection in a window made me look twice. And that night, when I came home from work, there was something strange taped to my apartment door, a single piece of paper. It said, "You shouldn't laugh at people, Emily." I froze. My heart dropped into my stomach. I hadn't told anyone about what happened. Not a single soul. I ran inside, locked every bolt, and pressed my back against the door. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. But when I went to call the police, I remembered. My phone had died the night before, and I'd forgotten to charge it. I plugged it in, sat on the floor, and waited for it to turn on. That's when I heard it, a faint sound outside my window. A slow, dragging scrape, like something metal against glass. I didn't move, didn't breathe. After what felt like forever, I crept to the window and peeked through the blinds. Nothing, just the empty parking lot, shining under the streetlight. The next morning, I decided to go to the police. They took the report, nodded, asked a few questions, but I could tell they didn't take it seriously. "Probably just a prank," they said. "Still, be careful. A prank, right?" That night, I didn't go to the bus stop. I asked a coworker to drive me home. But a week later, I had no choice. I had to take the bus again. As I approached the same shelter, my chest tightened. Everything looked normal until I saw something written on the glass. It was scratched into the surface, deep and ugly. "Still laughing, Emily?" That's when I decided no more running. I started digging. I talked to other women who used the bus at night. A few of them told me creepy stories about a man in a long coat who'd been seen hanging around Nicollet Mall, none of them had reported it. So I went back every night for 3 days. Same bus stop, same time, waiting, watching. On the fourth night, I saw him again, standing across the street, watching me. I acted normal, pretending not to notice. My hands were sweating, but my mind was sharp. I had a plan, and this time, I wasn't alone. My friend Lucas, who worked as a security guard nearby, was hidden behind the next shelter, ready with his phone camera. The man started walking toward me, just like before. His face was shadowed by the streetlight, but I could see the smirk forming as he reached for his coat. He did it again. He flashed me, but before he could say a word, I smiled coldly and said, "Smile for the camera." Lucas stepped out, phone recording. The man's eyes widened. He stumbled back, trying to cover himself. Lucas shouted, "Police are already on their way." The man bolted, but he didn't get far. The cops caught him 2 blocks down. Turns out, he had a history, multiple complaints, all dropped because there was never any proof. Until that night, he was arrested, and I thought it was over. But what really ended it for me wasn't his punishment, it was what came next. A week later, I went back to that same shelter one last time. The police had cleaned the glass, replaced the lights, made it look normal again. As I stood there waiting for my bus, I saw my reflection, calm, steady, no longer afraid. That night had taken something from me, my peace, my innocence, but it had also given me something else, strength. I realized the man didn't run away because I laughed at him. He ran because he saw something stronger than fear in me, something he didn't expect from a 19-year-old girl waiting alone at a bus stop. So yes, I laughed that night, but the real punchline came later when justice laughed back.